smiled, shut my wallet on their holiday, and made plans of my own. 3 days later, while they were carving turkey without me, the bills I'd stopped paying hit hard. My phone lit up 87 missed calls, and that was just the start. Before I tell you everything, hit like and drop a comment telling me where you're watching from. Have you ever been treated like the outsider in your own family? When people talk about family, they picture warmth, laughter, a place you can come home to no matter what. My family, it was different. On the outside, we looked fine. Holiday photos with matching sweaters posed smiles around the table, Dad carving the turkey while Mom held the serving spoon like it was her crown. But under the smiles was a current I couldn't ignore: favoritism, manipulation, and silence whenever I asked for the smallest bit of respect. I'm Madison Cole. I'm 27, the quiet one, the one who kept the bills balanced and the lights on even when nobody noticed. I wasn't rich, not flashy, but I had something no one else in my family had: discipline. I could make a late bill disappear before the power company even thought about cutting the line. When Dad had surgery last year, insurance only covered so much. I stepped in, paid what wasn't covered, and after that, it was like a switch flipped. Suddenly, I wasn't a daughter, I was a safety net. The family phone plan, on me; the internet, on me; a temporary copay, on me. Month after month, they leaned harder, and I just kept saying yes because I thought that's what love was. Meanwhile, my cousin Dylan, the so-called star of the family, always had a different story. He was the golden boy, the one who could do no wrong. Every time he bragged about a new sales bonus or another night out, it was me quietly paying off the electric bill they forgot again. Every time he posted his perfect dinners online, I was covering groceries my parents didn't want to admit they couldn't afford. Mom bragged about Dylan's success like it was her own, while I was just the budget cop, the one who made things complicated. There were moments I let myself believe things would change, like when Mom baked her apple pie and the smell filled the whole house, or when Dad fell asleep in front of the TV with the football game buzzing low. I'd glance at the old family photo on the mantle, me in braces, Dylan grinning without a care, and wonder if maybe someday we'd sit at the same table without me being the punchline. But deep down, I knew better. The favoritism wasn't an accident. It was a pattern. Every time Dylan needed money, I was expected to provide. Every time I spoke up, I was told to relax, stop making drama. That was my role, unseen, unheard, and yet always paying the price. And when Mom's text came banning me from Thanksgiving, it didn't come out of nowhere. It was the final nail in a coffin they'd been building for years. The first crack showed up in the group chat. It was supposed to be the Thanksgiving head count. Names scrolled down the screen like a guest list to a party I'd helped fund, and mine wasn't there. I stared at the screen waiting for my name to appear, then finally typed, "Did you forget me?" The dots pulsed for a few seconds before Dylan replied, "Limited seating. Try Christmas if you behave." The words made my stomach drop, not because of what he said, but because nobody else objected. Mom didn't correct him. Dad didn't say a word. Aunts and uncles stayed silent like silence was permission. I called Mom. The sound of clinking dishes and laughter spilled through the speaker like the party had already started without me. "You're not invited until you apologize to Dylan for ruining his promotion dinner," she said flat, like she was reading a rule book. "By ruining, you mean asking why he keeps borrowing rent while he's bragging about his sales checks," I shot back. In the background, Uncle Ray's voice cut in, mocking, "There she goes again, budget cop." Everyone laughed. Everyone but me. I felt heat crawl up my chest. "You want drama? Then stop using my debit card on autopay," I said, steady but sharp. The line went quiet for a moment. A door slammed somewhere on their end like they thought I was bluffing. Then the call dropped. 10 minutes later, Aunt Patrice texted, "Don't make this about money. Family comes first." Then she posted a gratitude photo without me, long table candles glowing, everyone tagged but me. On Thanksgiving Day, my feed filled with plates of turkey and pie captioned "Best Family Ever." My phone buzzed again, a message from Mom. "We saved you a plate porch pickup." Like I was a delivery driver, not her daughter. I drove by later. The foil-wrapped plate sat on the porch. A neighbor's cat sniffed it, pawed the corner. I left it there on purpose. Black Friday morning, I tried to make the day normal. I went to the bakery for coffee and a bagel. Aunt Patrice happened to be there, waving me forward like I was a problem to manage. She told the cashier, "She's sensitive about success. Keep the small talk short." The cashier's smile dropped. The woman behind me muttered, "Ouch!" And suddenly, the whole shop felt colder. I walked out without my bagel, sat in my car until the heater cleared the fog off the windshield. That afternoon, Dylan called like nothing had happened. "Front me $600 for my girlfriend's gift, I'll Venmo Friday," he said. Then added, "And we'd all feel better if you just said sorry and stopped being difficult." I didn't answer. He filled the silence with, family takes care of each other. But sitting in my car, I finally saw it for what it was. Family didn't take care of each other. I took care of them, and the more I gave, the more invisible I became. That was the moment I realized this wasn't a misunderstanding. This was the plan. By Saturday, the noise inside me had turned into a decision. I sat at my kitchen table phone, buzzing with messages I didn't read, and opened my notes app. Line by line, I started writing it all down. Dates, amounts, reasons, tires for Dad's truck, meds after his surgery, the family phone plan no one else wanted to manage, the internet bill that kept somehow getting paid, groceries, copays, surprise deposits before banks closed. As I scrolled through months of transactions, my chest ached. None of it was one time, even when they swore it would be. Every just until next month became permanent. Every emergency became my responsibility. My yes had become the floor they walked on. I typed a line at the top, "What they don't know is about to save me." The next morning, I met Grace, my mentor, from work at a quiet cafe. Wooden chairs creaked, sunlight striped the table. I slid a cheap binder across to her filled with printed receipts and screenshots. She flipped through it page after page. Her face stayed calm until she reached the totals. Then she sucked in a slow breath. "You've been a safety net, not a daughter," she said softly. "Time to cut the net." "Walk me through it," I told her. So she did. Step by step, she showed me how to revoke auto-pay transfer accounts, protect myself legally. None of it dramatic, all of it clean simple once I decided I was done. On my way home, I opened the banking app and moved through the checklist like stepping stones across a river. Revoke mortgage auto-pay, remove my card from the electric company, port the phone plan to a prepaid account in my name only. The bills that weren't mine slid back to where they belonged. By Sunday night, Dylan posted a story, his table full of leftovers, captioned, "Real loyalty isn't about money." The comments were full of clapping hands. I muted him. My screen went quiet for the first time in years. Monday afternoon, I was in the hardware store when I heard Uncle Ray's voice in the next aisle. "We've got her in line now. She'll come around." I kept walking, bought light bulbs, stuck the receipt in my pocket like a small promise to myself. That evening, Mom left a voicemail that started calm and turned cold. "Since you won't apologize, skip Christmas too. And don't embarrass us with your loan spreadsheets." I listened twice, deleted it, sat still in my quiet apartment, realizing their silence didn't scare me anymore. 2 days later, the frantic call came. Mom's voice cracked through the line. "The mortgage didn't clear," she said, as if the world had tilted. I felt something settle in me then, like a stone dropping to the bottom of a lake. "I'll come by," I told her, "and I'll bring the binder." The kitchen smelled like old coffee when I walked in. The blinds were half-open lights slicing across the table where Mom sat with her hands folded tight, knuckles, pale. Dad eased into a chair, his face gray around the mouth, like he hadn't slept in days. I set the binder down between us. Its cheap plastic cover looked out of place on the wooden table where we'd eaten thousands of meals together. "This is private," I said, glancing toward the hallway. "No audience." Dad rubbed his forehead. "We thought Dylan was helping." He whispered, his voice almost apologetic. I slid the binder toward him, turned it so the pages faced them. "He told you that because I was paying," I said. "Here are the transfers, every one of them from my account straight to your mortgage company." Mom's hands trembled as she flipped through the pages. Grocery receipts, utility bills, prescription costs, the phone plan, the internet, the credit card payments, 3 years of lines, 3 years of me. You banned me from Thanksgiving until I apologized, I said quietly. So I stopped paying for the holiday you enjoyed without me. And I'm done funding the parts of me you're ashamed of. The front door opened and Dylan strolled in like he owned the place. He froze when he saw the binder. His smirk slipped. "You're really doing this?" He asked, his voice sharp, like my choice was an attack. I pulled a clear sleeve from the binder and slid it across the table. His text messages were highlighted in yellow. The dates, the I'll Venmo Friday, the weeks that turned into months, the money that never came back. He scanned them. His jaw worked. No words came out. "You can call it betrayal," I said, my voice steady, "but it's a boundary." Mom's lips parted, but nothing came. Dad stared at the totals on the last page, eyes wet. We didn't know, he said again, as if repetition could make it true. "You didn't want to know," I corrected. It was easier to pretend Dylan was your success story, and I was just difficult. Dylan snapped, "You can't just leave them like this." I laughed, soft-tired. "I'm leaving them like adults," which you also are. His mouth opened-closed. He looked away first. "I'm not asking for anything back," I added, tapping the binder once with my finger. "I'm just done. From now on, you handle your bills. I left notes on which accounts to call, how to set up autopay. I'm not your bank." The silence pressed in. The refrigerator hummed. A car passed outside. Finally, Dad's voice broke it. "What about Christmas?" His tone was thin, fragile. I met his eyes. "I'll see how I feel," and I meant it in a way I'd never allowed myself to mean anything with this family. I tucked the binder under my arm and walked out. The afternoon was bright, ugly, and clean. Each step to my car felt like a door closing behind me. Driving home, I stopped at a red light. Fear rushed through me. What if they cut me off completely? What if no one called again? The green arrow lit and I turned. And in that turn, I realized I'd been living in fear of their silence for years. Maybe silence was exactly what I needed. By the end of the week, the family group chat flickered with awkward messages, "Who can help reorganize bills," followed by strings of emojis and no volunteers. Someone typed Dylan and he replied with a single eye roll. Then the chat went dead. Aunt Patrice posted a quote about humility on Facebook, and for the first time in years, no one tagged me under it. Dylan's weekend photo dumps shrank no more fancy dinners, just board games under dim lamps. Mom sent a recipe for casserole like nothing had happened. I didn't reply. 2 days later, another text I didn't realize how much you did. "We'll figure it out." I read it twice, set the phone down. At night, I made tea in my quiet kitchen, balanced my own budget. The numbers looked simple when they only belonged to me. Still, their voices echoed sometimes. Dad's, "What about Christmas Dylan's? You can't just leave them like this." But then I'd remember the binder, the porch plate of turkey, the way Mom typed "idiot" in her text, like I wasn't her daughter, and the echoes faded. One evening, the phone buzzed. "Dylan." I didn't know. "I'm sorry." I stood under a streetlight reading it twice. I didn't reply. Not yet. Because this wasn't about one apology. It was about years of being invisible until my money showed up. At the bakery, a week later, the same cashier looked up and smiled this time. "What can I get you?" she asked. "Everything bagel, toasted cream cheese," I said, just like anyone else ordering breakfast on a regular day. I stepped outside, bit into the warm bagel, and for the first time in a long time, it tasted like something simple that didn't owe me anything. And that was the real showdown. Not at the kitchen table, not in the binder, but in the quiet proof that I could walk away and still be whole. The weeks after felt strange, like walking into a room that had always been loud and finding it finally quiet. For the first time, my paycheck was mine. I paid my rent, my car insurance, stocked my fridge, and still had enough to breathe. The absence of their requests felt like a new kind of air. Dad called one afternoon, his voice softer than I'd ever heard it. "We set up the autopay," he said. Then after a pause, "I'm sorry for making you feel like a purse." The words were raw, unpracticed. They didn't fix everything, but they mattered. Mom tried in smaller ways. She invited me to dinner without conditions. No holidays, no obligations. Just pasta at the kitchen table. She didn't apologize outright, but she didn't need to. The hug at the door lasted a second longer than usual, and that silence said more than words. Dylan stayed quiet. Maybe his silence was the most honest thing he'd ever given me. I kept the binder on my shelf not as a threat, but as a reminder. A memory of what I survived and what I chose instead. I don't know what next Thanksgiving will look like. Maybe I'll be at the table. Maybe I'll take a trip and drink cocoa out of a paper cup. What I do know is I won't be buying my seat with silence or with money. For once, their silence didn't hurt me. It freed me. Family isn't measured in how much you pay to keep your place at the table. Real love doesn't demand silence or sacrifice. It respects boundaries even when they hurt. I spent years thinking my worth was tied to receipts and autopay. But the truth is simpler. I'm not their bank. I'm their daughter. And I get to decide what that means. If this story hit close to home, tell me in the comments, have you ever had to draw a line with family? Your voice matters here. And don't forget to like and subscribe so you won't miss the next story.